You have walked through the world as a silent storm, a vessel of others' suffering, a quiet witness to the subtle tremors that ripple beneath the faces people wear. You know this truth deep within your heart, feels the wounds no one speaks of. Your spirit trembles under the weight of invisible burdens. But listen closely, for there is a shadow that lurks beneath this gift, a warning older than your conscious mind can grasp. This power to absorb, to understand, to carry the unspoken aches of others. It is no simple blessing. It is a double-edged blade that cuts both ways, slicing through the fragile fabric of your own being. You have been the healer and the wounded, the bearer of light and the keeper of silence. Yet in the quiet moments when the world retreats, you sense something restless, stirring an unseen drain, a subtle theft of your life's essence. This is not mere fatigue or fleeting sorrow. It is the slow unraveling of the self, a secret erosion born from the unacknowledged depths of your psyche. It is the danger of losing yourself in the currents of other souls, the peril of drowning in the oceans you once believed you could navigate with grace. Do you feel the tremor beneath your ribs, the hollow echo where your own voice once lived? You stand at a crossroads unseen, where empathy can become entrapment, compassion morph into consumption. This is your whispered warning carried across centuries by the shadow of the archetype, an ancient call to awaken before your light becomes your prison. Can you hear it? The faint pulse beneath the surface, a summons to look beyond the comforting veil of selflessness, to confront the hidden hunger that thrives on your surrender. For in the heart of your gift lies a dangerous void, one that devours not out of malice but through unconscious agreement. The question hangs like a spectre in the air. How long will you give yourself away before you disappear completely? There is no shame in this silent struggle. It is the path of the empath, a pilgrimage through darkness toward a flicker of awakening. But beware, without the fierce fire of self-knowledge, your gift may become your undoing. Listen now, not just with your ears, but with the quiet wisdom beneath the noise. This story is yours, written in the language of the soul's shadows, and the time to face it is now. You are drawn now into the vast tapestry of the psyche, where light and shadow entwine in eternal dance, weaving the threads of your inner world. As Jung once said, the archetypes are the ancient actors upon the stage of your soul, figures of myth and mystery that reveal the unseen currents beneath your waking life. Here, the empath and the narcissist emerge as twin shadows, mirror reflections of a deeper polarity that pulses beneath the surface of your experience. You see yourself in the archetype of the healer, a luminous figure bearing the ancient staff of compassion, wandering through the wilderness of pain. This healer carries wounds, not fully known scars that whisper of sacrifices made in silence. But beside this radiant figure, hidden in the twilight, stands the wounded one, the broken child, the abandoned shadow, the part of you that aches with longing for recognition and safety. These two selves exist in uneasy balance, caught in a fragile ritual that has repeated across your life and indeed across generations. The empath's gift arises from a deep wound, an echo of abandonment or invisibility that carved hollow chambers in your heart. You became the vessel for others' pain because your own cries were unheard, your suffering unseen. This unconscious pact with suffering forms a dark contract to be the light in another's darkness. You must first carry your own shadows alone. And so you wear the mask of the healer, nurturing others as a balm to the aching void within. Yet the shadows do not remain silent. The archetype of the narcissist, the mirror to the empath, embodies the hunger to be seen, to be adored, to fill the emptiness with reflection. This figure is not merely a villain, but an ancient counterpart, revealing what you deny in yourself, the desire for acknowledgement, the fierce need to protect the self from dissolution. The empath and the narcissist are bound in an eternal polarity, a magnetic pull that draws them into the same dance, a dance of need and giving, of wounding and healing. Within this archetypal drama, you find the great paradox. Your gift is both your salvation and your snare. The light you shine outward is fueled by the darkness you hide inward. The more you give, the more you risk losing the thread of your own soul's voice. As Jung whispered across the veil of time, the shadow is not something to be destroyed, but to be embraced a darkness that once acknowledged can be transformed. Look deeper into the roots of this dynamic. The empath's wound is often ancient, seeded in the earliest moments when you learn to silence your pain to survive. Perhaps a mother's absence, a father's coldness, a world that demanded your small self disappear beneath the needs of others. This primal abandonment carved the space where the archetype of the healer took root, growing in the fertile soil of suffering. But healing is never simple. The wound feeds the healer, and the healer feeds the wound. This cyclical dance becomes a ritual drama, an unconscious script passed from shadow to light, weaving patterns of sacrifice, rescue, and erasure. You may find yourself drawn repeatedly to those who need saving, losing yourself in their stories, absorbing their pain as though it were your own. In this sacrificial role, you are caught in a web of unconscious dynamics, bound by the ancient laws of polarity and projection. The healer's compassion is a luminous fire, yet it burns at both ends. It attracts the wounded, the lost, the desperate, those who seek the mirror of your light to reflect their own fractured selves. And so the dance continues. You give and they take, you nurture and they demand, you lose and they find. This is no accident but an archetypal pattern, etched into the collective unconscious, a ritual played out in the shadows of countless souls. The psychic wounds you carry are not mere personal failures or bad luck. They are the marks of initiation, the call to awaken from the sleep of identification. You are invited to step beyond the roles you have inhabited, the wounded, the healer, the victim, and to glimpse the greater mystery beneath. What if your power lies not in endless giving, but in the sacred act of receiving? What if your true healing begins with reclaiming the fragments of yourself scattered in the shadows? As you stand at this threshold, the voices of your unconscious rise like a chorus. Fragments of forgotten dreams, whispers from the depths of your being. You may feel the stirring of old fears, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being unworthy. Yet these fears are not prisons, but portals, gates to the inner sanctum where transformation waits. The archetypes invite you to look beyond the surface of your relationships and wounds, to see the dance of light and shadow as a necessary passage in the journey toward wholeness. You are not merely a victim of circumstance, but a participant in a sacred ritual, a pilgrim crossing the liminal space between fragmentation and integration. In this sacred drama, the empath's journey is both perilous and profound. You carry the torch of compassion, but the flame must be tended with care. The shadows you absorb are not yours alone, and yet you must learn to distinguish the voice of the other from the whisper of your own soul. This discernment is the alchemy that transforms pain into wisdom wounds, into strength. As you walk this path, ask yourself, who am I beyond the roles I have been given? What parts of myself have I sacrificed to hold the pain of others? What shadows have I denied that now seek recognition? The answers may come in the language of dreams, in the symbols that rise from the depths, or in the silent moments when the world falls away. You are called to become the alchemist of your own soul, to transmute the base metal of suffering into the gold of self-awareness. The archetypes stand as guides and guardians, urging you toward the wholeness that lies beyond polarity, beyond sacrifice, beyond the endless dance of giving and taking. This is your initiation. You're crossing into a deeper understanding of your nature. The empath is not merely a passive receiver, but a powerful force of transformation. If only you dare to face the shadow and step into the light of your own truth. You are drawn into the swirling vortex, where opposites meet, collide, and entwine, a sacred stage where the empath and the narcissist enact their timeless ritual. This dance is not merely a personal tale, but an archetypal drama that ripples through the collective unconscious, an eternal play of shadow and light, of giving and taking, of longing and denial. You are both the dancer and the dance, the flame and the moth, drawn irresistibly into its perilous glow. Feel the pull between these forces, a magnetism older than your memory. a gravity that pulls souls into orbit around one another. The empath is the wellspring, the deep ocean that absorbs, reflects and mirrors the storm of emotions. The narcissist is the desert sun, blazing with a hunger for recognition, a thirst for validation that never quenches. They circle in endless ritual, the healer reaching out to save the lost child clinging desperately to the light. This polarity is a cosmic ritual, a sacred drama that unfolds in the hidden theater of your inner world and plays out in your waking life. It is not random that you find yourself caught in this pattern, for the soul seeks balance through contrast. The empath's openness beckons the narcissist's hunger. The narcissist's hunger awakens the empath's boundless compassion. Together they enact a cycle of wounding and healing, of sacrifice and demand, weaving a story that transcends the personal and touches the mythic. Imagine the dance as a timeless ritual, the empath as the moon pulling the tides of the narcissist's desire, the narcissist as the sun scorching and blinding, needing the cool reflection of the empath's depths. Each needs the other, yet each is trapped in a paradox. The empath's light feeds the narcissist's shadow, and the narcissist's shadow consumes the empath's light. The ritual repeats over and over until the soul awakens from the trance. This ritual is not without its drama, its fury, its heartbreak. The empath, in their luminous compassion, sacrifices their own needs, losing themselves in the other's storm. The narcissist, in their desperate hunger, demands ever more light, leaving the empath depleted and empty. You feel the weight of this dance, the pull of roles carved into your psyche by unseen forces. And yet beneath the surface, there is a deeper truth, a whisper from the depths, that this polarity is but one side of a greater whole. The ritual itself is a mirror reflecting the divisions within yourself, the wounded healer, the desperate savior, the needy rescuer. These are not strangers, but fragments of your own soul, playing out a drama written in the language of archetypes. Can you see it? The empath and the narcissist are not enemies, but partners in an ancient rite, each reflecting what the other has denied. The empath denies their own hunger for recognition, burying it beneath a sea of compassion. The narcissist denies their own wounds, hiding behind a mask of grandiosity and control. Together, they enact the dance of illusion, binding themselves in a pattern of dependence and loss. As Jung taught, the unconscious communicates through symbols, rituals, and dreams. This dance is a symbolic enactment of your inner conflicts, a sacred rite calling you to witness and transform. The magnetic pull between these opposites is not a curse, but an invitation to integration, to embrace the shadow as well as the light. In this ritual drama, every moment is charged with meaning. The narcissist's demand is a call to face your own denied needs. The empath's surrender is a plea to reclaim your power. The collision of these forces shakes the foundations of your being, forcing you to confront the paradox of your existence, that to truly give you must also receive, that to heal others you must first heal yourself. The tension between these poles creates a fertile ground for transformation, but only if you become aware of the script you are playing. The ritual can become a prison or a passage depending on your willingness to awaken. The dance may feel endless, but within it lies the possibility of breaking free if you learn to see beyond the roles and recognize the soul beneath the masks. Close your eyes and imagine the ritual unfolding beneath a sky of stars, each movement echoing the cycles of nature, the waxing and waning of the moon, the dance of sun and shadow, the eternal rhythm of life and death. You are both dancer and witness, caught in the sacred drama of becoming. What if the dance is not about saving or being saved, but about embracing the fullness of your being, the light and the shadow, the giving and the receiving, the healer and the wounded? What if the ritual holds the key to your liberation, hidden in the space between the steps, in the silent pause where opposites dissolve? You stand now at the center of this cosmic dance, the stage both vast and intimate, the ritual both ancient and deeply personal. The empath and the narcissist are but expressions of your own fragmented self, invitations to wholeness. Feel the rhythm of the dance in your bones, the pulse of the ritual in your blood. This is not a story of victimhood, but of awakening. A call to remember that you are the flame and the moth, the sun and the moon, the healer and the wounded. Within the tension of opposites lies the seed of transformation. As the dance unfolds, listen for the silent song beneath the noise, the whisper of your own soul, calling you to step beyond the ritual and into the mystery of your own becoming. You have lived many lifetimes within the delicate web of identification, the invisible thread that binds you to a single role, a single story. You are the savior, the light bearer, the one who must always give, always forgive, always sacrifice. And yet, beneath this noble mantle, something stirs, a subtle erosion, a quiet unraveling of the self. This is the danger of over-identification, the silent thief that steals your essence while you remain lost in the myth of who you think you must be. You have worn the armor of the healer so long that its edges have become your skin. The boundaries between you and the other dissolve into mist, until you can no longer tell where your pain ends and another's begins. You carry their sorrows as your own, their wounds as your own, until the weight becomes unbearable, the breath shallow, the heart weary. This is not strength, but surrender, an unconscious pact to erase yourself in the name of love. Your dreams, those sacred messengers, often whisper warnings. Have you noticed the recurring images of falling, drowning, or being lost in vast empty spaces? These symbols speak of your soul's plea to remember itself, to reclaim the parts swallowed by endless giving. Life events, too, arrive as subtle nudges, moments when your body protests with fatigue, when relationships strain under unspoken burdens, when the familiar pattern breaks and leaves you adrift. But the allure of over-identification is powerful. You are drawn to the light, believing that saving others will redeem your own wounds. You become the martyr, the rescuer, the unshakable pillar. Yet beneath this facade, a shadow festers, the shadow of self-erasure, the quiet death of autonomy. You lose your voice in the chorus of others, your desires vanish beneath the tide of obligation. This is the shadow side of empathy, the unseen trap, hidden within the gift. You may find yourself exhausted, depleted, your creativity stifled by the endless drain of emotional absorption. You may sense a creeping numbness, a detachment from your own inner life, as though you are merely a vessel, a conduit for others' pain, with no reservoir of your own. The narcissist's mirror reflects this danger back to you. Where you surrender, they demand. Where you give, they take without limits. The relationship becomes a crucible of sacrifice, a battleground where your boundaries are tested and broken. You may find yourself justifying the abuse, blaming yourself for not being enough, or fearing the loss of connection so deeply that you endure the pain. Yet within these shadows lie messages you cannot afford to ignore. The unconscious speaks through dreams and symptoms, offering glimpses of the self that has been lost. Perhaps you dream of a locked door you cannot open, a silent scream trapped beneath the waves, a shadowy figure beckoning you to remember who you are, beyond the roles you have assumed. As Jung suggested, the danger of over-identification is the failure to recognize the shadow within the parts of yourself that you deny or despise. When you refuse to see the wounded child beneath the healer, the hungry self beneath the giver, you bind yourself to a cycle of suffering. The shadow grows in darkness, feeding on denial until it bursts forth in burnout, depression, or despair. You may notice subtle signs in your life, the creeping bitterness beneath your kindness, the quiet resentment masked by smiles, the sense of invisibility, even as you pour yourself out for others. These are not weaknesses, but signals from your soul, cries for recognition and integration. Consider the symbolic language of your inner world. The savior archetype, so dazzling and pure, can become a mask that hides the fear of abandonment. The martyr's crown is heavy, forged from years of silent sacrifices. The rescuer's hands, so eager to heal, may tremble beneath the weight of unspoken wounds. What if the light you so fiercely embody is but one facet of a greater whole? What if true strength lies not in ceaseless giving, but in the courage to say no, to protect your own boundaries, to honor your own needs as sacred? To do this may feel like betrayal, a breaking of the spell that has bound you for so long. Yet the path to healing begins here in the gentle awareness of your limits, in the quiet reclaiming of your voice. The danger is not in being the healer, but in becoming lost in the role, in allowing your identity to shrink until only the other remains. You may sense the paradox: to truly give you must first receive. To truly love you must first love yourself. The shadow warns not to reject the gift of empathy, but to temper it with wisdom, to recognize when compassion becomes self-sacrifice, and to hold your own flame with care. Your body remembers what your mind may forget: the tension, the pain, the exhaustion that signal your soul's call for balance. Dreams may beckon you toward integration, showing symbols of wholeness, a circle closing, a phoenix rising, a light breaking through clouds. This is no simple journey. The lure of over-identification is woven into the fabric of your psyche, tied to fears of rejection, loss, and unworthiness. The challenge is to disentangle yourself gently, to step back from the endless giving and stand firmly in your own center. As Jung would remind you, individuation is the path out of unconsciousness, the process of becoming whole by embracing both light and shadow. You are invited to meet yourself fully, to greet the wounded parts with compassion, and to reclaim the sovereignty that has been ceded to roles and expectations. In this reclaiming, you may find unexpected freedom, the freedom to set limits, to say no without guilt, to nurture yourself as tenderly as you nurture others. The danger of over-identification is transformed into an opportunity for awakening, a passage through darkness into the light of self-possession. You are more than the roles you have played, deeper than the wounds you carry. The story of the empath is not only one of sacrifice, but of sovereign power waiting patiently beneath the surface, ready to rise. You stand now before a threshold, a hidden doorway veiled in shadows and light, where the path diverges between surrender and awakening. The ritual drama you have lived, woven from pain, sacrifice, and longing, calls you to question the story you have believed. What if transformation does not come from more giving, more sacrifice, but from a deep and sacred refusal to lose yourself in the currents of others? What if the doorway to freedom is not beyond the labyrinth, but within it? Look closely at the shadows that have been your constant companions, the wounded child, the silent martyr, the savior who forgets their own name. These are not enemies to conquer, but parts of your soul waiting for recognition. As Jung once whispered, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. You are called to shine a steady gaze into those hidden chambers, to meet the shadow not with fear, but with curiosity and fierce compassion. Ask yourself, what have you been giving away piece by piece, in the hope of being loved, accepted, or needed? What parts of yourself have been sacrificed on altars not your own? The empath's heart has been generous beyond measure, but the sacred limit, the boundary that protects the self, is not an enemy to compassion, but its guardian. This boundary is a door, and to cross it is to reclaim your sovereignty. The doorway is subtle, almost imperceptible. It is found in moments of quiet refusal, in the whispered no that resists the endless demand. It is in the deep breath before the next surrender, the pause that honors your own pulse. The transformation you seek begins not with grand gestures, but with small acts of self-awareness, recognizing when the gift of empathy becomes a chain, when compassion becomes consumption. The ritual drama shifts as you step through this portal. The dance of opposites remains, but the music changes. The healer no longer loses themselves in the wounds of the other, but holds a sacred space where both can heal. The wounded child is no longer hidden, but cradled, heard, and embraced. The savior releases the need to rescue and finds power in presence. You may find the world responding in kind or not. Boundaries may be tested. Old patterns triggered, relationships challenged. This is the crucible of transformation, the fire that refines the soul. You are learning the art of saying no without shame, of holding your ground, without fear, of loving without losing. In this awakening, the polarity of empath and narcissist reveals a new face, not adversaries locked in battle, but aspects of a whole seeking balance. You begin to recognize the hunger in yourself, the desire for recognition, for safety, for belonging, not as weakness, but as human truth. You allow these parts to be seen, and in doing so, you dissolve their power to bind you. The liberation comes not from escape, but from integration, the weaving together of light and shadow, need and generosity, self and other. This is the essence of individuation, the journey Jung described as the path to wholeness. It is a pilgrimage into the depths of your own being, where the false self falls away and the authentic self rises. Feel now the stirring of this transformation within you, a quiet power growing beneath the surface, a pulse of sovereignty, awakening in the core of your being. It is the voice that says, I am enough, I am whole, I am here. This voice does not shout, but sings softly a melody of presence and peace. You may still feel the pull of the old dance, the seductive call of endless giving, the echo of wounds seeking healing. But you carry a new awareness, a sacred boundary that holds your light without burning you out. The dance continues, but now you lead, choosing when to step forward and when to step back. This doorway you cross is not a destination, but a passage, a threshold where the old self dies and the new self is born. It is the portal to freedom, where empathy becomes strength, compassion becomes clarity, and love becomes a sacred boundary. As you stand here, ask yourself, what does it mean to be whole? What parts of yourself are ready to be reclaimed, embraced, and honored? What shadows are calling for your light? The answers arise not in words, but in presence, in the quiet moments when you listen deeply to your own soul. This is the mystery of transformation, that the healer you seek is already within, waiting for the moment when you will finally see. The doorway opens in the space between pain and peace, between sacrifice and sovereignty, between giving and receiving. Step through it with courage, for on the other side lies the possibility of becoming more than you ever imagined. You stand at the edge of a new dawn, the horizon unfolding with quiet light that does not blind, but beckons a soft illumination that reveals the contours of your own soul, not the shadows of another's. Here in this sacred space, you begin to understand the power that has been waiting beneath the surface, the power of boundaries, of saying no, of protecting the fragile flame of your own being. This power is not loud or forceful, but steady and deep, a root that anchors you amid the shifting winds of life. Imagine your soul as a garden, wild and tender. For too long you have sown the seeds of others' sorrows in this garden, watering their pain, with your own tears, sacrificing your own blooms to nurture foreign roots. Yet now, the time has come to tend your own soil, to plant the flowers you were always meant to grow. Saying no is the sacred act of pruning, of clearing space for your own light to rise. It is an act of self-love, fierce and uncompromising. Feel the strength that comes from this reclamation. The word no becomes a talisman, a shield forged in the fires of your own sovereignty. It is not a rejection of compassion, but its necessary companion, a boundary that allows your light to shine without burning out. You discover that the sacred yes, the wholehearted giving, can only flow from a place of deep self-possession. In the silence that follows the no, you hear the voice of your true self, quiet, clear, unyielding. This voice is your compass, guiding you through the labyrinth of relationships, emotions, and shadows. It whispers truths that no one else can speak. You are whole. You are worthy. You are enough. The dance of the empath and the narcissist, the healer and the wounded, does not end, but is transformed. The ritual becomes a dance of mutual respect, where each soul honors its own boundaries and the other's. The magnetic pull remains, but it is no longer a trap. It is a meeting of equals, a sacred exchange that nourishes rather than consumes. Picture yourself standing firm like an ancient tree, roots deep in the earth, branches reaching toward the sky. Storms may rage, winds may howl, but you remain unshaken, held by the deep strength of your own being. This is the power of individuation, the process Jung described as becoming who you truly are by embracing all parts of yourself, light and shadow alike. You are no longer lost in the endless giving or drowning in the need to be needed. You have learned to hold your own space with grace and courage. Your empathy is a wellspring, not a drain. Your compassion, a fire that warms without consuming. This is the sacred alchemy of transformation, where wounds become wisdom and boundaries become bridges. The sacred act of saying no becomes a declaration of life. It is a refusal to be drained, a commitment to honor your own needs as fiercely as you honor others. In this refusal, you reclaim your power and open the door to deeper connections, connections born not of dependency, but of authenticity. Feel now the sacredness of your own presence, the quiet power of your own soul, standing in the fullness of its being. You are a temple, a sanctuary where light and shadow coexist in harmony. This is your true home beyond the roles, beyond the wounds, beyond the dance. The journey of the empath is not one of endless sacrifice, but of sacred sovereignty. It is the path of awakening to the truth that you are both the healer and the healed, the giver and the receiver, the light and the shadow. In this wholeness you find freedom. Remember the ancient wisdom whispered through the ages. The soul's journey is one of integration, where every fragment finds its place and every wound its healing. You carry this truth within you, a flame that cannot be extinguished by the storms of life. Stand now in this sacred power, the power of your own boundaries, your own voice, your own soul. Let the word "no" ring out like a bell, clear and true, opening the way to a life lived fully and fiercely on your own terms. This is your awakening, your individuation, the sacred promise of the empath's journey fulfilled. You are not lost, not consumed, not forgotten. You are whole, you are free, and you are profoundly alive.